America has the largest aviation industry on the planet. More flights, more airlines, more passengers than anywhere else on Earth. And yet, for the last 20 years, it was flying some of the oldest commercial jets in the developed world. I went down this rabbit hole a few weeks ago, after I saw a photo of this, a Delta MD-88 sitting on the tarmac in Atlanta, parked right next to a brand new A350. That is a 32-year age gap. And I just kept thinking, how? Okay, so here is the thing. A lot of major airlines around the world cycle their fleets pretty aggressively. In Asia and the Middle East especially, planes get rotated out fast. Singapore Airlines was retiring aircraft after just 10 years. Emirates kept their average fleet age under 7. That is younger than most used cars on the road. And then there is America. Average fleet age, over 15 years. Some jets pushing 35. Some even 40. Delta basically perfected this. They bought their MD-88s brand new in the late 80s and just never let go. While other airlines were dumping theirs, Delta kept flying them for over 30 years. And when Delta needed more planes, they would scour the secondary market for deals, scooping up used MD-90s from airlines in China and Japan, leasing an entire fleet of Boeing 717s that Southwest did not want. One analyst described it perfectly back in 2014. He said, "Delta does not buy planes, they adopt them." And honestly, it worked. Buy used, fly it for another decade, and yeah, maintenance costs go up, but that is still way cheaper than buying new. But here is what I could not stop thinking about. If airlines will do anything to avoid buying planes, do they even own them? It is the next video. Subscribe so you do not miss it. And it was not just Delta. American Airlines was still flying MD-80s until 2019. Some of those had been in service since the early 90s. United still flies 757s across the Atlantic, to this day. When a plane gets old, the manufacturer stops making parts for it. McDonnell Douglas does not even exist anymore. Boeing absorbed them back in '97. So if you are still flying an MD-88 in 2018, and you need a replacement hydraulic actuator or a specific avionics component, you cannot just order one. Nobody is making them. So what do airlines do? There are official parts programs and certified repair shops. But when you need components for a plane nobody manufactures anymore, one of the most common solutions is to buy retired aircraft. They would park them out in the Arizona desert and strip them for parts. They were harvesting dead airplanes just to keep the living ones in the air. And that is not even the wildest part. Every few years, an aging jet goes through what is called a D-check. It is the most intense inspection in all of aviation. They can strip the plane down to bare metal. Panels pulled off, wiring inspected, systems torn apart, and rebuilt. By the time it is done, huge portions of the aircraft have been replaced. The wings might be original. The fuselage shell? Sure. But everything inside of it? New, rebuilt, or swapped from another dead plane sitting in the desert. It is the ship of Theseus, but at 40,000 feet. Is it even the same airplane anymore? Technically, yes. The tail number is the same, but the plane you boarded in 2019 might share almost no physical parts with the plane that rolled off the assembly line in 1985. One maintenance supervisor called it organ donation for airplanes. The FAA does not mess around with airworthiness. If a plane passes inspection, it flies. Period. Age alone does not make a plane dangerous, but it does make it harder to compete, especially on fuel, and especially on the passenger experience. A 30-year-old 757 burns significantly more fuel per seat than a modern narrow-body. On some routes, the difference is staggering. In the 90s, when jet fuel was cheap, that inefficiency was easy to live with. But by the 2000s, fuel prices had tripled, and then quadrupled. And then there is what it actually felt like to fly on these things. The seats were narrow. The screens, if there even were screens, looked like they were running Windows 98. And the cabins were so loud, you would land after a 5-hour flight with your ears ringing. And for a long time, airlines could get away with it. Nobody was posting about it. Nobody was filming it. But then, everyone got a phone with a camera. And suddenly, one viral TikTok of your cracked tray table or your yellowed cabin panels, and your entire brand looks 30 years behind. And which it kind of was. Ask anyone in 2015 what they thought about flying a US carrier versus Emirates, and it was not even a conversation. So if everyone knew the planes were old, and everyone knew they burned too much fuel, and passengers were getting more unhappy by the year, why did airlines not just buy new ones? Because they could not. Part of it was production backlogs. Boeing and Airbus had years-long wait lists. You could not just call up Airbus and say, "I need 50 new jets by March." You would get in line and wait. 3 years, 5 years, sometimes longer. The production pipeline was completely maxed out. But there was another problem. And this one is kind of insane. For some of these planes, like the 757, there was no replacement. The 757 has this unique combination of range and short runway performance that lets it fly from smaller US cities directly to Europe. Neither Boeing nor Airbus built anything that could truly replicate that for nearly 20 years. So the transformation was happening. But slowly. Airlines were placing orders. But the planes were not showing up fast enough to replace the aging fleet. It was like trying to renovate your house while you are still living in it. And then 2020 happened. I do not want to be the person who says, "And then COVID changed everything." You have heard that in 1,000 videos. But here is what actually matters about 2020 for this story. There was never a good time to retire the old jets. You cannot ground half your fleet when every single seat is selling. The old planes were making money. Worn out, fuel-hungry money. And then, overnight, every seat was empty. Traffic collapsed. Airlines grounded thousands of aircraft. And for the first time, they did not have an excuse anymore. If you are going to park planes anyway, park the ones you never want to fly again. Delta retired every single MD-88 and MD-90 in its fleet. American retired its 767s and most of its remaining 757s. United accelerated the exit of older narrow bodies it had been holding on to for years. Airlines used the crisis to do what they had been avoiding for years. If a plane was not fuel efficient, if it was not reliable, if it was costing more to maintain than it was worth, it was gone. June 2nd, 2020. The final Delta MD-88 revenue flight. Flight DL-88, Dulles to Atlanta. And when it landed, that was it. 33 years of MD-88s at Delta. Over. One retired Delta captain said, "It felt like flying a truck, but it was our truck." Okay, so the old planes are gone. Now what? U.S. Airlines went on the biggest spending spree in aviation history. Tens of billions of dollars. Hundreds of next-generation jets ordered. Ultra-efficient, quieter, cabins that actually feel modern. USB-C at every seat. Free Wi-Fi. Seat-back screens from this decade. And, for the first time in a generation, the average U.S. fleet age actually started dropping. In 2024, Delta ranked highest in airline customer satisfaction across multiple cabin classes. Unthinkable 10 years earlier. It felt like the crisis was finally over. But here is where the story takes a turn that nobody planned for. Airlines ordered the planes, retired the old ones, did the right thing. And then, the new planes did not show up. Boeing started falling apart. Production slowdowns, quality control failures. A door plug literally blew off a 737 MAX 9 mid-flight at around 16,000 feet over Oregon. The FAA restricted Boeing's production rate. Deliveries slowed to a crawl. And even Airbus customers were not safe. Pratt & Whitney discovered a manufacturing defect in the engines powering a huge chunk of the new narrow-body fleet. Hundreds of engines pulled for inspection. Brand new aircraft. Planes that were supposed to be the future. Grounded. Not because of the airframe, because of the engines inside them. Airlines that sent their old planes to the desert now do not have enough new ones to replace them. The fleet age that was finally dropping, it started leveling off. Boeing says they are fixing it. The FAA says they are watching. But patience has a shelf life. And so do the old planes they are being forced to keep flying. The aging fleet crisis did not end. It just changed shape. The fleet is getting younger, just not as fast as anyone promised.